In this session, we're going to further explore another way to make ghost images. You may have seen an earlier tutorial that I've done on ghost multiplicity, but this one's a little bit different with a bit of a different focus. But we're going to use many of the same techniques that we've used in the multiplicity tutorials. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to File, I'm going to go to Scripts, I'm going to load my files into a stack. And I'm going to browse for the files that I've got. And I'll talk about the photos that we need when I've got them up. So if I go to my desktop, I've got them in the file that says Ghost. Now there's three, I really only need two, but I'm going to select all three for this exercise because I'll show you a little variant as we go along. And I'll hit Open. And I'll attempt to align my source images and I'll hit OK. So you can see lining up, building the source images. Now the key to this exercise is having this top image, which is a blank image, blank background with nothing in it, and it needs to be underneath. So because I've shot this first, I need to drag it to the bottom. And so there it is, it's underneath the image. So I'm going to turn off that top file because it doesn't, not needed just yet. So I've got my two images. I've got me sitting at the table and I've got my background and they're aligned out. To create a ghost image, I quite simply just fade down my opacity. And there I am, I'm see-through. Because my backgrounds are aligned, and in this case I used a tripod, it works quite nicely. But you'll see why I clicked automatically align backgrounds. Even with a tripod, you can see that it hasn't lined up perfectly. So if I didn't do that, I'd have a bit of double imaging here in the background. It wouldn't work. So I always hit that automatically align image. So there's my first image, simple ghost, 2-photo ghost file. Really easy to do, and you can play around with it. You could create some nice little narratives with it. You could have multiple people in it. Now, perhaps you might want to use some of the multiplicity ideas to incorporate multiple people. You might have 5 different photos of 5 different people in different positions that you want to make into ghosts, and you did them separately for some reason or another. So I've got another photo of myself here. I'm just going to turn that one on. Now, say I want to have a second ghost of myself. Well, this is where I've got to use the multiplicity because I don't want this figure here as they walked through when I was setting it up. So I go to my layer mask, create my layer mask, and as in my multiplicity, I've got my black and white colour selected. My brush is a soft round brush, 300 is a good size, and I'm going to get rid of myself. I'm going to paint myself out of the picture, so as close as I can. So there's my layer mask. Remember Command-I, got to be a keyboard shortcut. So there I am with a ghost of myself, but I could make myself 2 ghosts quite simply by going back to this layer and playing with my multiplicity or my opacity. I could have myself really faded, not quite as solid, or have them both around the same. So if we say 60%. There we go, what to do for that one? Yeah, 60%, there we go. So, a dual ghost, or multiple people as ghosts. So you can combine the multiplicity or the layer mask idea. Now, I'm just going to delete my layer mask. You can even, just by playing with the opacity, create different levels of ghosts here. But of course, when you're doing that, obviously you can't get rid of this figure here, but that might work quite nicely too. Where you start to run into problems is the more ghost levels you put on top, the thinner the underneath person becomes. So you sometimes have to play around with your opacities to make them stand out a little bit more. That's because if I turn these layers off, I'm building up, that area is where I'm sitting, so I've still got part of it there. So if I was to bring myself up to, I am 100% there. Here we go. See this on the file, I'll put that over the top. Well, I've put 60%, or 48% in this case, of the background over the top of me to create that layer of multiplicity. Now, if I had another layer on top, I'd have to keep adjusting for that. But we won't worry about that too much. So we're going to leave it this. So there's our original multiplicity, original ghost. Sorry, down we'll put 60%. That's close enough. Simple ghost. We can add our other one on, back up to 100%. Whoops. Make it 60. Trick for young players. Always be on the correct layer. The first time won't be the last. Remember, I can add my layer mask. Get rid of myself, so I'm actually just revamping it, what I've just done. So this is using the multiplicity tools. Command I to invert, and then I've got my ghost layer there too. So you can combine both ideas to create multiple ghosting images. You might want to use that to show, the presence of people who have been in different places. You might want to create ghostly sort of stories, depending on what you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this technique, and I could recommend looking at the work of an artist called Darren Sues, and he, not using these techniques, but has some really interesting ghost imagery there that you could utilise and look at. So look around for different ideas, because artists have used this in different forms, different forms, different ways. Yeah, get out, have a go, and create. Remember, but for the ghost idea, unlike the normal multiplicity, make sure you have a blank background shot as a reference.